recording. So turning it back on.
Okay,
Okay.
there we go.
And George is coming. Do we know about, I'm assuming George is coming. Whoops.
He still has another minute.
Okay.
You
Can't be
guys
late.
are all early.
Yeah.
Had to get away from the dog. No.
And do we know if Melissa is coming tonight?
I will reach out.
What?
I will reach out to her. I don't know.
Okay. Didn't
And
hear.
she's
How does the garage work going, Anne? Mike said when we drove by, we had our early morning breakfast, and he said, well, she's got a balcony now.
Yeah,
Ha! What started out as a simple garage has become,
exactly.
that's
Yeah,
cool.
that was my treat.
that sounds like fun. Balconies are very, I don't know, romantic.
I know, it's theatrical.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's like up here, you're just up high and you can see the woods and it
really
just
That's neat.
Yeah.
look at the stars, right?
We do live in a beautiful place, that's for sure.
Mhm.
We do.
Yeah.
You hearing anything from Melissa? I'm surprised George, I think was coming.
Yeah, I saw
Yeah,
him
Yeah.
Oh, here comes Melissa.
All
There she-
right.
a select board member. Oof.
That's what you are tonight, Melissa. Hi.
Can she hear us?
Yeah, she just is muted so far. She'll be here in a second.
Let me rename myself.
Who do you want to be?
I don't know. I mean, I could go so many ways.
We'll have that at our next meeting.
Oh, boy.
Oh, see, I sent that to Melissa. I should have sent that email to. So pardon the email that you're going to get.
Me?
Yeah,
Which account did you send it to?
it was a text.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did hear it bing. I thought it was just Chris.
I would ignore my husband too.
Well, he's with the nephew, so one of them would call me if it was an emergency.
Well, shall we start or shall we wait to see if George is coming?
I will check in on George.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try something more on the.
Yeah, because the majority of what we're gonna do tonight has to do with that, the FERCon stuff that he was gonna get together.
No,
That's me. I'm just playing around. I've got all this new technology at home.
Oh, there's George.
he is again. I didn't press send and he's here.
Hey. All right, that's great.
There he is.
Here he
It's long-
is.
Long time no see.
Oh, sorry, I'm late.
Yeah, well.
You almost got a message.
You hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
you almost got a message. Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you. So Anne, I'd like to introduce you to George, or George introduce you to Anne.
Hi, Ann, welcome.
Hi, George. Thank you. And I haven't met Melissa. Hi, Melissa.
Yes, I was
Hi.
just gonna say, and Melissa, we were just sort of waiting. And Anne lives on Montague Road. She's a dog walker on Montague Road. Very important task. That's how April and I know her. And let's see, you moved here from Chicago. Like how long have you lived in Shutesbury, Anne?
About 8 years, Peg.
Wow. And so you were here from Chicago, and in Chicago you taught at, I was asking you, Roosevelt University, right?
Very good. Yeah.
Chicago. And you're now working from home.
Mhm.
Is there anything else you want to add about yourself?
I didn't know that our dog walks were going to appear on this. Well, I grew up outside of Worcester. So even though I lived in Chicago for a long time, I'm a Massachusetts resident by origin. I'm just really happy to be here. I'm really happy. I'm on the recreation committee as well, but I just think the work of supporting our small but mighty paid personnel in Shutesbury is really important. And I actually like, I don't know, you're recording, Becky, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I do like administrative work.
It's okay to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's great.
I think that's true for most of us.
Yeah.
As long as you're not paid for it.
Yeah.
Happy.
Okay, so let's call the meeting to order. It is 6:35.
Sounds good.
All right. And we've introduced our new member. So approving the minutes of the September 21 meeting. Did anybody have anything, excuse me, to change or add to the minutes?
did
George
not.
sent out?
They looked brilliant.
I thought they looked great. Thank you, George.
You're welcome.
And
I make
thank
a
you.
motion, we approve the minutes of
I'll
September
second.
21st.
Good motion. Okay. Ross,
Arvanitis, aye.
Ross, aye.
We don't wait.
April,
Oh, Stein, I. Oh, that's right. You weren't here.
I don't remember. Was I there? I don't remember.
no.
I had you down as absent, so I'm
Okay,
gonna go.
so
with
I
that.
will abstain,
Okay.
Okay,
to be fair.
all right. Okay,
And I've lost all of you on my screen. Where are you? There you are.
so our major task tonight is looking at the wages and salary survey and comparing salaries on FERCog. On the what does that stand for? Franklin County.
Regional.
Council of Governments.
Yes, so Anne, we call that FERCog, which threw me for a while. So it has all the towns in Franklin County. You can compare salaries. There's a lot of things that it could just serve as a attainment for Franklin County cities and towns, mostly towns. And George is our great
Spreadsheet.
phenom for spreadsheets and pulling the information together for us, which is wonderful. So do you want to bring that up, George?
So I was just getting the minutes together. What do you want me to bring up? You want me to show the
The
wage and tax survey?
tax survey, sorry, yes,
Wage and salary survey, sure.
salary, not tax.
Let me get it open and then I'll share the screen.
Okay,
And does this represent our third year with the wage and salaries that we had worked on before? Is this the third year of that cycle?
Yeah,
It is. Okay.
almost, yeah. Is it? I think it is.
and one thing while George is doing that,
Becky, you need to let me,
pardon?
Oh, sorry, George.
that's right.
I need to make George a co-host.
Okay, well, let's do this first then.
Do you see it?
Yes,
Yeah.
So this is the survey that was completed and during fiscal 23, usually published in December or January. And here's the first position, the accountant, and these are all the towns in Franklin County on the left-hand margin. And then all the relative information, all the important information that we like to use to do our analysis.
Well, they stepped up the format this year too.
Hmm.
It's much nicer.
Well, it's different by departments too, because
Yeah.
some of them, some jobs it breaks up into tables for each one. Yeah, I guess that's true overall.
Yeah, they got color. Yeah, they got color to differentiate. It's actually, they made it for a digital format, must be.
well,
They
that's-
sure don't want you to print it.
No, they don't, do they?
No,
Who prints anymore?
it would be nice if it came in a digital option as well. Then it would be easier to grab the data and put things together with it, because I have to type everything in when I make spreadsheets.
Is it in a PDF, George? Because I can
Yes,
convert,
yeah.
I can convert PDFs to other formats.
Well, so when we get it next time, do me a favor and do that.
Yeah.
Excel I like, but I mean, Word would be fine because I can take it from Word and put it in.
Paste.
So,
Yeah.
thank you.
You're welcome.
What's the little triangle next to Charlemont and
Those,
Conway?
so
What's
these
that?
those look like footnotes.
Yeah,
So Hilltown Accounting, so here's a triangle right here.
okay.
All their accounting services rather than,
Right.
The-
A lot of the towns have had to do that. Can you read that? That's a little better, I hope.
Yep, yeah,
Look
that's
at-
much better.
Look at Warwick. That's just weird.
what is weird?
They've
The,
got- The
much?
accountant is $58,000, no benefits.
No raises in a while. Oh, that's position. That's you. They've been in position. Never mind.
But 58,000 for an accountant in Warwick doesn't make any sense.
It says 15 hours per week. Oh, no, I'm sorry.
No,
That's
that's-
Shutesbury.
No,
Yes,
that's
so that may be,
That's
that may
Sunderland.
be a contracted service and that's how much they pay a year.
But
Huh.
even,
There's no footnote.
True.
yeah, that's why I didn't think it was contract. I think that's just weird. It could be a mistake.
Well,
Or
what
that's
would
how
ours
much they
be?
had to pay to get someone to stay.
Yeah, but Warwick is so tiny. I mean,
No, I
they
know. Yeah.
20-hour a week.
And the fact that it's all no's on
Okay.
benefits, they're probably not showing the hours.
It must be a service if they're not showing the benefits. I think that's like,
That might be, yeah.
Yeah, it could be a service. And that's
But
their budget.
Sunderland-
That's how much they've budgeted.
What would Shutesbury's be if it were full-time? And just as a comparison, my math is
Right.
off.
I can do the math for you.
Do the math.
Do the math. So let me just look at Shutesbury. So Shutesbury's 21,502 divided by 15 times 40. Oh, that much.
Whoa,
Yeah.
I think you did that a
I'll
little
apply
bit.
for that.
Full time would be
be
47,000 a year. So
57.
yeah, ballpark.
That's
Okay.
good. It's in line.
Yeah, it is, okay.
Yeah.
This is the accountant, is that right?
But the Sunderland one looks odd. I mean, $58,000 a year for working, 15 hours a
hours.
week. Not bad.
Mm-mm.
That's a pretty good hourly pay.
Well,
So why are we looking at this?
We're looking at this for, at the wages and salary for police and town administrator.
Oh, for preparing for the negotiations.
Yeah,
Well,
Okay.
that plus, I think as we move forward, we should make sure that the corrections we made 3 years ago are still in line with,
Still applicable.
with everybody.
And actually, last year, I'll remind everyone that we did say we were going to do that in this fiscal year as a
Right.
part of the analysis of the new wage increase method that we've been using for 3 years. We
Yep.
said when we implemented it 4 years ago or 3 years ago that after the third year, we would do this kind of analysis.
Yeah.
So I had it on my list of things to do. And Melissa just made it easier for me to do. So
good.
I'm not gonna
Oh,
let you off the
awesome.
hook.
One thing I want to insert here, and Melissa is the select board rep on the personnel committee. And George is the FinCom rep on the personnel committee. I just wanted to make that clear. And April is just April.
They didn't know what to do with me.
She's our resident counselor.
Well, for what it's worth,
She's
she
the
used to
resident
be on the
select
finance
official.
committee and she used to be on the select
Oh.
board.
And now I'm
I
on
know.
finance again.
She's
Yeah.
the
And I'm
veteran.
just Me, and I
I'm a
was
citizen.
on, and I was on the select board years and years ago, but I'm just here.
Oh, George, that means you're the only one that hasn't been on the select board.
Yeah,
and
don't
you
even
must-
think about it.
Why not?
Go, Melissa, go.
Well, it might be a aspiration for Anne in her development. as a
Exactly.
town employee.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
First
Yeah.
meeting, it's like the hazing.
Hey, and it could be worse. You don't show up for meetings. That's when you get elected to important positions.
You have to be present, so you do.
So Anne is running for select board? It's worth doing. It's fascinating, but anyway,
So for the police departments, It's broken out differently because there's more
Yeah.
details for each department because they're made up of multiple employees. And so each department, there's a table for each city in this case, each town in this case.
Oh, my
So,
God.
so here at Shutesbury, you can see the different level of positions we have in the police department.
And we don't know, does this indicate how long somebody's been in a position?
Yes,
Yeah. The date.
The longevity,
Yeah,
where is it?
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I
only
see.
one of them shows it because we have such turnover in the other positions.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we have multiple people in the other positions.
Right.
And does any other police department have a union? Is
Mm,
that
that's an interesting
atypical?
question.
They're
You
police,
see,
no, most
let-
of them do.
not Shelburne, not
How do you,
Row. Row doesn't count. Not Orange.
Yeah, it
Actually,
does. The patrolman says yes under it.
oh, yep. Yeah, so
Looks like it's
this one
in
does. Montague does.
is it the
Not
same
Leverett.
union?
And not, not all of them in not all positions. Yeah,
Mm.
it's
Interesting.
mixed bag.
And is it the same union that represents the police who are unionized?
Yes.
Okay.
So who pays the other percentage of the salary if the town pays 50%?
You mean
Yeah.
for,
Percent is the town.
those are benefits, I think, health insurance.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, it is misleading though. It
Yeah.
does look
Yeah,
that way.
okay.
Yeah, health insurance and retirement insurance. Yeah, and the reason we're looking at these, Anne, is because there are the police, the highway super job we just did, but
Right.
the police union contract is gonna be coming up this year, and the town administrator, Becky's job is going to come up this year as well. So are there typically 3 members on these boards?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah, there's Becky's always on, well, not her own, obviously, she plays a different role with that, but there's usually 3 and then Becky as a ex officio, if we have to give a title, yeah.
and George will be representing the personnel board on the town administrator, and I will be on the police union contract negotiations. So who determines, this is one question I had, Melissa. When does it the select board that determine when this should start, when we start meeting? How does that work?
Generally, well, the police, when I sat on a couple of times, I can't remember if I was the personnel or the select board, I've been the select board. We usually start, well, we try to start them in the fall, so we have them ready for the spring, but sometimes that doesn't really work out. So it's sometimes January, February area. Becky
Okay.
could correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed like that.
Yeah, I think we need to start the police union contract as soon as possible. If you guys would support it, I'll reach out to the union, what is JT or Jamie? At the, we're part of,
Excuse me.
we're part of the union out of Springfield, 404 Teamsters. So
Okay.
it's a pretty solid union. Leverett has a union that is, they put together more informally with an agreement of the members of the police department, so they're not as tied to a big union like we are.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting because we now have a more solid crew of police officers, so it'll be interesting, but none of them have ever done this before or had the lead in a union role either. So it's going to be interesting.
So
Do we
do
we
they
know
have a
which
union?
office? Yeah, the
Yeah,
steward.
the union
know which one?
steward, yes.
I believe Devon's the union steward.
Okay.
So Becky, you will, as far as the police negotiations, you will be letting us know when that happens, when it starts.
Yep. Yep,
Okay.
and I think the other boards haven't selected anybody yet for the town administrator. I'm not sure if the select board is going to use the same format or not, so there's still, they haven't talked about it yet, so we'll have to work that out.
Maybe add it to our agenda for next week.
I mentioned it at the last finance committee meeting that, last night or 2 nights ago, that, these two negotiations were coming up and let AJ know that they need to assign somebody. So I'll follow up and tell them they should really do it in the next meeting so we can get moving with the police.
Okay,
So we can be prepared for the police.
okay.
Do I still need to share?
I don't think so. I think, is there any reason to be looking at this now at this point?
Well,
George, I have a spreadsheet I made when we were doing the police study group that had all the that used this and then other data that I got by calling them. Did you want to use that? Maybe I'll send it to you if it's if it's useful, go ahead. If not, delete.
well, I also put together a spreadsheet every time we're doing a negotiation. It's,
Mine tracks it over 10 years, but
Here's-
that may be too much information.
well, I guess it really depends on what we're doing. I can't, what's the last one I would have done? It should be in here. Here, fire chief. So here's a sample of what we do. I'll
Oh,
take,
that looks better.
yeah, actually, this is
Yeah.
probably a bad example. I think the police one might be better.
That one.
Yeah, this one. So, well, yeah, so there's the towns and there's their salaries. I calculate it to hourly because some of them are part-time to kind of get them on an even keel. And then we get the averages of the different towns and then we compare where we're at. So, there's the raw data down here, if you will. And every one I do a little differently because every department's a little different. But in this case, we got an annualized salary and then we figured out what those salaries were. We looked at Shutesbury in relation to that. And that kind of gives us a benchmark, a ballpark, if you will, of what we think is a reasonable salary range. So this data down here comes from the set wage and salary that we were just looking at. And this is what I was talking about. I have to put this stuff in manually. This is a simple one. We've done much more sophisticated. There's been more tricky ones in this one. But this is what I'll do for the town administrator. I guess I should do it for the police department too. But yes, Melissa, please send it and I'll look
Yeah,
at
I'll
it.
send it. You can use it if you want. If you don't, no big deal.
Well, and it depends on what the committee wants to, what the board wants, what we think is going to be useful for us to make the decision. So
Sure.
we can look it over at our next meeting too.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah.
April, were you
Yeah,
trying to?
I don't remember if in the police chief contract, if that included an increase over the 3 years. Because as I'm looking at the salary of our chief, it's significant. I know our chief is new, but I wasn't sure if that was built into the contract.
Right.
And
I was on that committee, April,
I was
and she
too.
did. Oh, yeah. Well, we did negotiate with her and she got 3 raises, annual raises. And yes, they were raises that would bring her up to the average over the course of 3 years.
Okay,
And,
that's good.
and yeah, it worked out pretty well and it fit into the finance committee budget very well, as a matter of fact, because she did come in at a lower rate than the previous chief. So the budget amount that was in the budget that year, there was excess. And so when we increased that excess by 3%, it synced up with where we were going to bring her up to. And so in essence, brought her back up to the previous chief's level. And his was competitive.
Because I'm really sensitive to, women department heads not getting paid what male department heads are paid. I mean, I think we have to be really careful about that.
Yes, and that's why we do this analysis, because we don't know what the genders are in these towns. We're just taking the average numbers. And it's possible some of the women's salaries in some of those towns are dragging the rate down, but
So George, I know that right now, Kristen's current salary is 68,000. I'm pretty sure. And there's a number of, the majority of these are in the 70s to 80s.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought what we were all acknowledging this. In fact, Kristen saw this, right? Becky, you had given it to Kristen. And when we sat down and met with her, we were all looking at this. And
Which
yeah,
2 full years ago. So
Mhm.
we're updates on data is what's changing.
Mhm.
We
Yes.
also don't know with those salaries though, how long, I mean, this doesn't show how long the person has been in that position either. Whether
Right.
male or female, it doesn't,
that
just
data's
longevity, you know.
But the younger chiefs like Irving, he's only been there 2 years, I think, maybe 3.
Wow.
Well, I can include that information because it is on the table. If that's the kind of one of the things that people want to see, I can certainly add that as I'm picking off the data.
If
I'll
you,
remember that in the future. It seems
might
like
help,
useful
Jess.
data.
yeah, I was gonna say, if it's not too much trouble, it wouldn't hurt to know that information
Mhm.
or to have it.
Okay.
Yeah, and
w-
Kristen's will come up, her contract comes up next year,
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. And so will the fire chiefs. So that'll be
Oh,
interesting to do next year.
Yeah.
He's been in that long already?
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Time flies when you're having fun, Melissa.
Does fly. It's amazing to me how
Wow.
much we've done and all the things we talk about that seem like they were yesterday, but they were 3 years ago, this whole wage thing. So the chief's salary in the Shutesbury budget right now is, 68,000 for this current year. So that looks like it's 8,000 less than the average,
Mm.
right? Roughly. So maybe I was out of misspeaking when I said that we were bringing her up, but that's what I
No,
thought we were doing.
I think you were right, George. It's just that everything else went up. So we were trying to get to what was average 2 or 3 years ago, because there's a year delay on our spreadsheets.
Yes,
from
yeah.
the first-
Yeah.
So
where,
it,
yeah, go ahead, Becky, go
I
ahead.
was just saying that so I think that's why we need to review more, almost annually,
Mhm.
at least every 2 or 3 years. Because the other problem area that the highway equipment operator schedules, Leverett made a big jump a couple of years back, and so now we're $3 $3 or $4 behind them.
Yeah. Well, and we're living through a period of high wage increases.
Finally.
Yeah.
Where are you seeing, on what we were just looking at or something else, where were you seeing the average for all the towns? Was that on that information that I just missed?
Yeah, it's on here. Let me find the, oh, it's I don't know, what did I do with the police chief's one? It should be right here in history. It's not. That's weird. Let me go back. That's odd here. Yes, what I did was we had them all for these various towns, annualized it, and we do increase it by 2.5% because we realize that we're talking about next year.
Yeah.
So we always use the 2.5%, which is the standard tax rate increase. That's why we use it. And then we get these averages, and these are what we use. And yeah,
Okay, okay, thank you.
Hmm.
Okay,
Would it be possible if we find that some of the contracts with our department heads are really off? Is it possible for us to reopen that negotiation for a higher salary to make it more in line? Because it just, I mean, it's
No,
important.
the personnel board's authority could be to recommend to the select board, but nothing more than recommend to the select board.
Okay,
yeah. Remember,
They have contracting authority.
that's right.
3 years ago, we did a full scale analysis of all positions, and we identified 8 positions. Remember that?
Mhm.
And we
Yeah.
actually did recommend increases above and beyond the normal
That's right.
annual librarian. There was
There's quite a
it was
few.
like
But
quite
they
a few
weren't under
positions.
contract. These are positions under contract. So it's
Right.
a little different.
Good point. Good point. I
Yeah.
didn't catch that part.
We don't want to lose good people.
No,
So
not
just to
me.
clarify, the personnel committee can make recommendations to the select board. Is that right, Becky? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yep. Yeah,
But
and the
ultimately,
board counts on the research done by the personnel board to make solid decisions,
Okay.
so, and recommendations.
but ultimately it's town meeting, because they vote,
Mhm.
we all vote the budget.
Yes,
But
but
they,
you know,
it is town meeting to vote the budget, but within the parameters within the budget, because oftentimes, you know, it is the select board that contracts individually with people.
That's right, that's right, that's right. Huh. So they,
Okay.
Feel the fun you'd have, Anne and George?
Yeah,
but you know, we make recommendations, but we're trying to use real data and,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
current data, and we're trying to be methodical in how we analyze the data.
Yeah.
So that, you know, we try to make it bulletproof.
yeah, and for a long time, there was no methodology. I can't
Right.
even remember back when I was on the board in the late eighties, I cannot remember all of this.
no,
I really don't.
Don't
Okay,
do it.
so is there any more we need to do with this? Because also I had a question going back to, updating the highway super's job description, including the tree warden position. Did we ever?
right. We have not
Sorry.
done that.
Yeah, that's our next, that would be our next time. So I just gotta write this in a minute quick. Keep going. I'm good.
Okay.
You good?
So did we ever incorporate it into his job description? I know we talked about him starting. And our highway super for the first time is also gonna be our tree warden, so. And that, I believe the last time we met, it wasn't included in his job description, does anybody else agree with that?
That's right, and I also incorporate, I sent out a draft, did I send it to everybody?
You did.
With the corrections that Meryl had made, some of her suggestions
yes,
on the
yes.
job description. But I don't have the incorporation of the tree warden into that. So how can
Right.
we-
You were gonna insert it, or somebody was gonna have that data to insert, right?
Yeah, I don't have it. Do you have
I
it, Becky?
have a copy of that job description. Did I get it to you? I do have a copy. Do you have it?
No, I
Did I
do
send
not
it to
have
you?
it.
I think I have to scan. It's an older copy and it might. I think might be best is to ask, to send it to Steve Sullivan, the highway super, and get some of his input, before we incorporate it
That would be good.
officially. He's been taking, I think he just had his 4th week on a tree warden class that he's been taking, which has really gotten him up to speed. I mean, he already had, a degree and went to UMass and
I
worked
went to
in
Stockbridge Agriculture.
Stockbridge.
Yeah. No, he's also learning how to drive a grader, I believe. I mean, he's really taking this job well. Anyway,
He's doing a great job on Montague, he is keeping up. And now that we have 3 people on the personnel board. No, it's been wonderful because, you know, we're having logging trucks, and in April, no, we have logging with the culvert issue, we have logging trucks going up and down, empty and full, and it's made a difference with him keeping up with the grading.
it really has.
It really has been
Yeah.
wonderful.
So was the highway super position full-time before so what happens then when you infold the tree warden duties? Do you have to renegotiate the salary or the?
It was a new hire, so we incorporated
Okay.
it with his first time because our highway superintendent for 24 years, Tim Hunting, retired on the 28th of September. So Steve just started on the 29th of September.
Okay.
Very
So,
re-
but he was
Hmm.
tree warden the 1st of July. So he had already been taking on those responsibilities, and there's always been like a wedding of the highway department with the tree warden. They work actively together. And many, what Steve learned at his course is that many towns have the tree warden as part of the highway superintendent's
Oh.
job
So
descriptions.
we'd also
So-
taken the stipend that was with that position. The tree warden had a stipend and didn't we fold that into his salary?
Yep.
I think.
Thank you.
Good
Okay.
question. Thank you, guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is a good question.
And oftentimes the old warden would call the highway department to help them with the trees. So they were roped in.
Yeah, like Becky said, the coordination.
Yeah, yeah.
And
So-
really, you know,
Yeah,
the superintendent, he's out on the road, his people are out on the road all the time. They're seeing
Mhm.
all the tree
Mhm.
line issues. They should have one eye out looking for that
Mhm.
stuff. So it's really, I think it's the right way to do it.
Yeah.
And also he is brush cutting along the sides, which has been wonderful, at least up at our end. It hadn't been done in a long time. For various reasons, but you know, like we've got a swamp at the end of our driveway, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it's nice to have that clearance for many reasons.
It looks like
Yeah.
a boulevard.
Too.
What,
Yeah.
April? I'm sorry.
It looks like a boulevard.
Yeah. well,
Montague Road. It's
Montague Boulevard. Okay. So also, we had on our agenda that we were going to maybe have our personnel handbook policies review and updates. We're still going for November. Is that still a date that we're still
Oh.
heading for? And the same for the classification schedules. Now, for Ann's benefit and mine, because this is not clear, could somebody tell us what the personnel handbook policies review and updates, well, the personnel handbook policies are handed out? You know, does somebody want to just describe that briefly for Ann? And I would like, I always enjoy hearing about that. And then the classification schedules, what are they in relationship to the personnel committee handbook?
Oh, so the handbook is the handbook for employees, like an HR handbook, and like like you'd get at an employer, right? So it does your leaves, your vacation, your disciplinary thing. It does defines different types of employees, sexual harassment, the drug free workplace policies, all of those sort of things are, and ours was grossly out of date. And so
85.
Becky and I were going to work on it, and I kind of went rogue and started putting it all together. I took what we had, put it into a Word document through scanning and converting it from PDF. And I've started making some edits and adding stuff. That the family medical leave was very out of date.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
It
So
was
I
not-
brought that up, but there's a few other things. So I think next meeting I'll just toss it, let everybody look at it, and either
Okay.
we're on the right track or not, and then we'll just go
It
from there.
hadn't been done since 1995 or two or something like that.
I just looked at the cover.
An 8, I think.
Maybe
So
like
the
10
last
years ago.
time it had an update in 2012. The prior
yeah.
one was 2006.
Okay.
So I'm just, I'm throwing everything I can think of in there, and then we can just either blow it up, delete stuff, but anyway, I kind of went rogue because it's hard to meet. Becky can attest. September was a very long month with a lot of meetings, and they
Yeah.
haven't lit up. So it's easy to sit down and do this like in front of the TV.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
took
Like at 8 o'clock at night, when Becky's not going to want to be sitting in her office. So anyway,
Fair enough, Melissa.
so
Sure.
yeah, it'd be a draft. Everybody can, we can get scissors and cut and paste if we want to.
But Melissa, some of this stuff would have to depend on what the state requires,
Yes,
right?
and luckily we have a lot of, so luckily a lot of it is connected already with state law,
Yeah.
and there's a lot out there on state pages that help.
Mhm.
And of course, those posters in every employment office has one, so the YV actually used the one I hung up in the field office. to look some of the stuff up for resources to help. So, it'll be new and improved and up to date.
Great. Be sure to we'll stamp the date on it. And,
Yeah.
Did you put in the pregnancy policy and?
Yeah, it's not called that anymore. It's called something a little, it's not called the pregnant person's policy
A
anymore.
little more current.
Yeah.
what is it called?
The context is still the same, but the name of it is very different. Every time I look at that page, I get a little bit of a chuckle.
So also the
But I will, Becky. Yeah, that's in there too.
classification schedules, April.
Yes.
Tell us about
Yeah.
that.
Well, this is a project Becky and I have worked intermittently on, and gotten maybe a third of the way through, maybe a little more. We're using a more updated job classification model, so that looking at trying to take like a lot of our job descriptions had gotten heavier weight for heavy lifting versus so it was sort of skewed towards non-women and things that they tended to do versus or clerical more administrative jobs that women tended to do. But in any event, it's a different way of weighting different parts of what we do in any job, and coming up with ultimately with a grade, so that say that an equipment the highway superintendent is equal to or the same grade level as, say, the police chief. And I'm not sure, we have not done that yet, but to give the grading relative for each position. And it takes time. So Becky and I are on it.
But it's a great thing because, again, it's scientific. It's using data. It's
Yes.
it eliminates a lot of subjectivity and allows us to be equitable in how we apply that practice of determining what's the right pay scale for all employees.
The classification schedule that had been originally used in the 80s to build the original table, it's become outdated in 30 years. So we searched around and we were able to use one based on Amherst with changes and slight changes to make it, kosher for us to be able to adopt it. Because they paid a huge sum of money for it. But they were open to that as long as we made some changes in the system itself. But I think April and I have been working on this for 2.5 years, but we're determined to wrap it up this year.
We have 2 weeks. We have to be done by November. Did we say the beginning of November or the end of November?
No, by November would be October 31st.
Well, I say.
Actually, it says by our November meeting
Okay, so that we're meeting what,
on the
November?
16th.
16th.
Okay, we've got till
So
November.
maybe we'll
6th.
maybe a draft by then.
Yes,
Yes.
definitely.
So at that meeting, we're going to look at a draft of the personnel handbook and the classification schedule.
We'll see how that works. I don't know if we'll have time. Maybe one and then the other, of course. Right, George?
Well,
But I think, yeah.
I think if each person presents,
Yes.
then we can all digest and
Yep.
get more in depth in December.
Yep.
Digest between the meetings, we can all read it more in depth, right? Because there'll be a lot of information.
Yeah. And if April and I aren't done, we'll be December. Because it looks like April's panicking.
What?
I'm not, I want to see that.
No, we can make this work. We'll do it.
Okay.
I'll bring the dog.
Okay. We'll all bring our dogs.
Not really.
That sounds fun.
All right, so expect the draft to be presented.
Yeah. Because this will help as we again re-examine, the salaries and our wage and pay scales. We need
And
as much data. Yeah.
The new, this is not on the agenda, Peg, but can I bring up an issue that I'm hoping to get some help from George and have on next agenda?
Of course.
So we have just placed ads for, a new land use clerk, new highway equipment operator, and a new assistant town clerk. Grace used to be our town clerk, and at the point the finance committee allotted funding for that position. It was a temporary position, but last year they built it back into the budget, which the town clerk is very grateful for, because there's so much that is being mandated through the elections office that never used to be requirements for the town clerk. So she finds herself buried frequently around elections, and she's created a lot of great new systems, but a 10-hour-a-week assistant town clerk is going to really help her position. So we have estimates of what we're going to pay them from the chart, but I don't know, George, do you think could you update the equipment operator as well as
So you want an analysis of equipment operator and the assistant town clerk?
And the
Yeah.
land use clerk, you said also, didn't you say that?
I don't know what kind of data is out there for a land use clerk.
I think the land use clerk, I think the work that the personnel board is going to need to look at the potential for a wetlands agent,
Oh,
as well as the land use clerk. I know Miriam
yeah.
brought that issue up last year, and then it wasn't working out with the towns she was in discussion with, so it was dropped. But as we look towards a new land use clerk, it might be a good time to reevaluate whether the town is ready for an agent.
Did
not
we ever
just-
get a job description for the land use agent, for the agent position? Because I don't think we did last year.
So
That was-
that's need to start.
And I think with our grading positions, that will help with the understanding where the land use clerk should be, in terms of our salary ranges.
Okay.
So Becky, you're basically asking me to do analysis for equipment operator and assistant town clerk and just send it to you, or it's not something we need for the committee, right?
Right, I guess you're right.
Well, when
But
you get to the point where, when you're moving along, maybe you can present it to us. But I'll just
Yeah.
pull it together for you.
Thank you.
So we discussed the status of 2 future business items. We had a third future business item. That was policies and procedures manual.
Right.
Which Melissa presented.
I called it the handbook.
Well, they're 2 different things. Remember we talked about a policy and procedures manual?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes, no, that was different. That was
And that-
different.
Never
Yeah.
really did much
I-
on that. We talked about it, but didn't
And
get
I-
much further. Sorry,
I'm
Deb.
very hopeful that can be put back on that shelf until we actually complete these structurally required,
Yes.
because we went in a bunch of circles, had a lot of nice conversations, but these other 2 pieces are really fundamental to the personnel board's existence. So
Yeah.
what I hope is to get the policy manual handed out to all department heads like it used to be in its full and complete condition with all the policies in it. I mean, because the handbook with all the town policies is given to all the department heads in a big notebook where things can be updated and changed. And then for all employees, we make a smaller stapled together folded manual or handbook. And those two things really need to be completed and distributed. And I
Yeah,
think if we,
there's no question.
Yeah.
I had it on the future business list,
Yeah.
so I just wanted to get it out. That's the only reason I brought it up.
yeah,
Just to
no,
keep
I'm,
it everybody's consciousness. So I'm confused about the superintendent job description that was sent out. Are we not reviewing that tonight?
You know, why don't we put that on hold until we can incorporate, once I can incorporate
Okay,
the
next
the
meeting.
tree warden. So if you can
Warden.
send me that, I'll find a way to dovetail that in.
okay.
It's gonna be a long meeting in November.
Yeah. I was just thinking that. Prepare yourselves, everybody.
Yeah. Don't make plans too early because our meetings usually only go about an hour, so that'll be a little longer. There is one other
Go ahead.
thing for future business, if I may. And I know this is probably a sensitive subject, but hearing the word town clerk, I still would like to have a conversation at some point about the way we appoint that position because I really,
We don't appoint that position. It's
Elected.
I know we
elected.
don't.
Well, why
I know
did
we
you say
don't.
the way we appoint that position when we don't appoint it?
It's an
I think
elected
the
position. All right,
discussion we
you're right.
were talking about was changing it so it was appointable and
At
like
some
other
point last
towns
year,
appoint, not elect. Yeah.
and I'm wondering why that particular employee of all our town employees has to be an elected position. And I think it's a conversation we should have because we have a good person. And I don't like the idea that does she feel like she has longevity in her job when she knows she get voted out by people who don't like her in town? And you know how politics can be. And when I look at her job is mandated by the state. All her duties are mandated by the state. Granted, she has to be good on her feet. She has to be intelligent, but I don't see why it's a political position that has to be voted. And for a small town like us, I don't know that that's wise. I can talk about other reasons, but I think we should talk about it. I really do.
I
Oh,
think we get Grace's, before we talk about it, I think she needs to be, George, why don't you call Grace and have a discussion with her to start? And then if you still want to have a full personnel board thing, well, she needs to be included.
Well, that's fine. Her feedback is valuable. There's no question about that. And Susie, who was an ex-town clerk, her feedback too. I'll talk to her as well. I think that's great. I'd be curious to hear what they think, but we need to think about it in the broader spectrum. And maybe Susie will say, yeah, it should be a hired position. And Grace will say, I love it being an elected position. But we as a personnel board really have to ask ourselves pros and cons. And, what's the right thing to do here? But I'm happy to talk to both of them. So I will. At some point, I'll bring this up again. I won't put it down as future business in the minutes, but it's in the back of my mind, and I'm going to do a little background on that.
No, I think it's just one of those things we want to make sure they don't hear about it. They should be included. I mean,
Well,
we should,
I'd hate Grace to hear it and not be sure why we're doing it and think
Right.
that maybe somebody's has an opinion about what she's doing or anything like that. So given that sensitivity, I will definitely talk to her.
thank you.
What about other towns? What about Leverett,
Yeah.
Whately, and are they appointed or are they elected? Do we know?
I remember from our discussion earlier that it was a mix of both.
That's what I
Yeah.
remember.
But
Let
I
me
think
look
the clerk is elected. I think Lisa Stratford is elected.
What town is that? I didn't hear that.
Brit,
Uh-huh.
But-
Hmm.
yeah. She's
Is
been
it-
the clerk
Is
for
she
about,
reelected every year? I can't remember.
Nope.
I wouldn't go by Leverett anyways. They
years.
elect their
Yeah.
finance committee. I mean, they got some odd policies in that town.
well, they do all their elections at town meeting, not in a ballot box. It's all.
Right, that's right.
Oh, and then there's that too.
Yeah, there's that too, right.
Maybe they're a good comparison for some things, and then some things we can let them be on their own,
Yeah.
the free spirit.
It's funny how towns evolve their way of doing things.
Yeah.
But this
But
is something, yeah.
Hill and New Salem are both elected, and Petersham.
And there's no state mandate that it be, obviously, that it be a elected, or that's really up to the town.
It appears to be, yeah.
I'm looking in the
Interesting.
the wage and salary summary. I always call it the wage and tax. That's an old thing from a different place. And I don't see town clerks in here. They have to be though, right?
Yeah,
They are.
Yeah, we bumped her salary up.
Yeah, we did the analysis. I'm just not
Yeah.
finding it. All right, I'll look another time because oh, here they are. I just lost it. I'm just looking to see if it shows
I think it shows elected or appointed.
that exactly. That's what I was looking for. Here it is. Elected or appointed. Yeah. So AAE, AEE, AAE, AE, AAE,
Sounds like a song there.
So yeah, it's, you know what? It looks like
Half and
60% are elected and 40% are appointed.
So would
Wow.
it be a town moderator appointment or a select board appointment? I mean, that would be,
Well, it's probably, I say appointed, but it's really the hiring process.
Mhm.
Right, and then appointed, of course, by the executive board of the town.
The assistant clerk right, okay. Actually, you know something? I'm going to take this back and I'm going to tell you that all the A's for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 towns, the A's were for the assistant clerk. 7 were for the assistant clerk, and all the clerks are elected
Okay.
except for in Bernardston and Buckland, Irving, Gill. Oh, no, I take it back. Bernardston, Charlemont, Deerfield are appointed. Yeah, you know, so it's a mix. Most are elected. I'll give you that.
I
thought
just
very-
Googled it, and it's interesting that I just found this, there was a debate in Hanover, Mass about this. And one of the things that it says is that 95% of a town clerk's job is dictated by state statute. So an elected town clerk would not be forced to act upon town manager's priorities and could instead respond to the priorities of the law and the people.
Yep.
So they
So
wouldn't
that
have
might
a,
be
they
a
wouldn't
reason
have a
it's
department head.
elected.
Yeah.
The big thing, George, you'd take away by appointing them is their independence.
Right,
Because once they're elected, they don't have to answer to anybody.
right.
So
except the state
Except the
So-
state, right?
Or the
is
voters.
that really an issue
And the
for
people.
Shutesbury?
The voters.
and the people, yes, there's that.
I
I
think
mean-
it's all about that independence because of the political pressures in town. It's not, she's not working for the select board, so she's not as open to bashing like the town administrator is.
So,
Select board.
well, she can get bashed, but she doesn't have to worry about losing her job.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind looking at her job description and asking myself which one of these items fall into that category. I mean, issuing death certificates and marriage certificates, dog licenses, you know, she's going to do that. And those things aren't going to be political. But what are the aspects of the job where being elected is going to protect her?
Anything
I'm curious to know.
The head of the
Just
border
think-
registers, so
Yeah.
that might have, that's the political realm that she's.
Yeah,
at.
it's all
her
around voting.
position,
Yeah,
her
it's the
position as a-
voting
yeah.
part, the maintaining of the voter list,
Right.
registering to vote. That may be the part in which they want it to be separate from any supervisory overseer in town.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's like what Anne was saying, that's mostly state mandates.
Mhm.
And a lot of it is around voting, and we have to protect voting
Mhm.
a lot. I mean, that's
right.
important.
I'll drop it, but I'm still going to talk to them.
Well,
It's worth a question, though. It's worth.
Yeah, I mean,
it's good food for thought, really.
Well, I just, we've got a good person. She likes the job. She's
Yeah.
conscientious. And I'd hate to find out that she did something that upset a group and that group started a campaign for somebody new and she was ousted, you know, and she not ousted, but somebody else was elected.
They can't oust her unless they find somebody to do that job, which is a huge job. And I don't know, you know, you really have to care and be committed to do that job.
And I can vouch that in my lifetime of 47 years, we've only had 3.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Leslie's the other one. I
Leslie,
could talk to Leslie too.
Leslie signed my birth certificate.
Oh,
and
that
my
is so
marriage
sweet.
license.
Oh, Whoa, that's
I do remember
incredible.
when one of these three people ran, that the others scrambled to find another candidate. And they actually tried to get a previous, right,
Right.
the existing person to reconsider and run. So we do know that it could happen. I don't like to look at things in the current year's context. I'm thinking about the things that we can have in place for the future. And
Right.
certainly I can understand this argument about, her responsibility is, in the election process.
Yeah,
I will forward this PowerPoint from the town of Hanover that I found, because it is interesting too. It says, what if an appointed town clerk accepts absentee ballots, for instance, after the deadline?
Yeah.
What are the implications for the town? So there's also something about, if you're appointed, then you might pull the town in as being responsible for some of your personal actions. So it's interesting that they clearly thought about this and voted overwhelmingly to keep the position elected. But there's some good information on those slides.
That would be
Yeah,
good.
that'd be great.
That would
Thank
be great,
you.
Ann. Thank you.
Good.
George, I did want to say that, I 100% agree with the idea of appointments for treasurer, accountant, and tax collector, because those three positions traditionally were elected as well.
Hmm.
And that led to, the towns that had suffered huge fraud and situations like that. It just, you didn't have any oversight potential with a treasurer. And the towns like, I won't name the towns, but that we know have
I'm
had
sure there's been many.
corruption, and some very close to us. It's not, that's where an appointment of a financial person is much more effective as far as management goes
Well,
than
What if the town clerk decided not to issue certificates, things, birth certificates? Somebody wants a person, no, I'm not gonna do it. I don't like them. I'm not gonna do it for them.
I
I
think
mean,
they're mandated by the state.
she's mandated by the state. So the
Right.
select board,
can't
what
do a thing.
leverage do they have?
I
They,
think you contact the state agencies that would be overseeing
Yeah.
the
Okay.
clerks across the
All
state.
right.
There's got to be some sort of, I don't want to say disciplinary. I don't know what the might be, but there's got to be some oversight
Right.
somewhere.
No, I'm sure you're right about that.
Yeah, you
course.
can't just, decide I'm not doing this if it's
Yeah,
mandated.
if you go
by the
back,
state.
like Becky was pointing out earlier, if you go back decades, generations ago, fraud was pretty common in a lot of places. We know it was.
Well, and with the financial team, you also want to make sure the person has got the qualifications and the education. In an election, you can get anyone in there that doesn't know what they're doing at all.
Right.
They could be, completely opposite, trained in something completely different, now sitting down and doing finances. So the election has that, that's
Why- hard.
the skill set may not be there. Can you campaign well and convince people, but do you actually have the skill set to be able to do double entry accounting or any of those simple things even,
where we have a phenomenal financial team.
We do.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're doing great. We're in good shape as far as our staffing goes.
we really are. Finally.
Well, are we all set? Is there any other business that we need
Real
to-
quick, Becky asked me to do 2 wage analyses, and I will. So maybe Melissa, this is a good opportunity. If you have the 2023 wage and salary survey, if you could convert that and send it to me, see if we can.
Did you send it out by chance? Hold
Well,
on.
we all have it, but I'd be happy to email it to you.
Yeah, go ahead and email it to me and just let me know which that you wanted the police and
Assistant town clerks and equipment operator.
town clerk and equipment operator.
Yeah, and the town
As-
clerk schedule includes the assistant town clerks. It's really just the assistants I want, but they're all in the same table.
Okay.
Great.
The equipment operator, the industry is starting to pay a lot more too.
And I
Towns
still-
might be losing some of their equipment operators.
Well, with all the infrastructure money going around.
I think we need to, if you can put the equipment operator on for next week? I mean, next meeting on the agenda?
That we have to
I don't know.
hire somebody.
Well, hopefully, we potentially might have, potentially we might hire by the time we have the next meeting. But I just would like a review. I'd like the committee to really look at that position because we're trying to bring in a third person to replace Steve's position. And looking at the future and the chart, it would just be good to have the personnel board's eyes on that job.
And you want him here before winter.
Yeah.
Yes.
You bet.
Okay, so let me just ask this. We have Steve, we have, who's the other person that works for the highway department?
Dave Grenier,
Okay, and is he the one that lives on West Pelham? Or not?
nobody lives on West Pelham.
Okay,
In the
Oh.
highway. He used to work in the highway department 2 years ago.
uh-huh, okay.
But- He was
So-
supposed to repair the mower this summer. And that's why he got back on the appointment list, but then although he anyway, it's not happening. So he's not, so we don't have a mechanic right now.
Okay, so we have
Two
Steve-
people,
who replaced Tim, and we have,
Dave Grenier.
yeah, okay. Oh, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that was an issue. Okay,
Yeah, because Steve was he was the second equipment operator and now he's the superintendent.
right. I didn't realize we were down one at that point, so, or now.
Yeah.
Okay, so anything else we need to discuss tonight? Okay, well, Anne, thank you for joining us. I think it's gonna be good to have you with us.
Oh, thank you. It's nice to be here.
Had an impact already.
Yeah, yeah, no, thank
So,
you, thank
um,
you.
Yes, thank you very much. So I'm gonna move that we adjourn the meeting.
Second,
Third,
overnight aside.
Ross, I.
Make peace, O'Neill, I.
Dine I.
And you can vote too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Brigham, yes.
Okay,
We usually go alphabetically, so you'll be after,
Yeah.
before me and after
And I-
me and before
no, we
Peg.
did it
Oh,
alphabetically.
oh,
Are you
Melissa.
kidding?
That's right. AMR,
Yeah.
yes, anyway,
April
Right,
7th is usually
everybody.
the one in the end.
that's right. Except with the W people.
Okay. Well, thank you all, and we'll see
Thank
you
you.
on November
16.
Yeah.
16th at 6:30 PM. Be
Perfect.
there or be square.
All right.
Okay, thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
night.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Good
nice to
night.
meet you, man.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.